All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Friday morning book group via Zoom. And again, we are discussing Nothing to Envy, Ordinary Lives in North Korea by Barbara Demick. A difficult read, but an important read. So for me, this was a fascinating but very unsettling look into North Korea, and amazing that it's seen through the eyes of defectors, which is the only way she could get the author could get some significant and true information. She had tried by going into North Korea and trying to obtain information that way, but it was pretty impossible to get anything. So she brings to life what it means to live under basically the most repressive regime in the world, kind of definitely a black hole. To imagine no internet, no TV aside from one government station, no displays of affection, and how a wrong word spoken without thinking and a neighbor hears you can send you to the gulag for the rest of your life. It's just hard to imagine such repression for us living in the United States. But I felt it was also a very timely book because of what is going on today in our country. So currently, Barbara Demick is the Beijing bureau chief for the LA Times. And she became the first bureau chief in Korea in 2001 and reported on human rights abuses and focusing on economic and social changes inside North Korea. And also, more specifically, she reported on the subject of North Korean women being sold into marriages in China, which is, as we read in the book, a big thing. Her most recent book, which is also very well received, is called Eat the Buddha, Life and Death in a Tibetan Town. And that's a 2020 publication, I believe. So lots in this book. I think we can start, Mitch and Hillary. How we usually do it is we just go around and everyone gets a turn to talk. You don't have to talk. It's purely volunteer. But if you'd like to say something, you're most welcome to. I give my little spiel first, and then we go around. So you just can if everyone can mute for now, and then if you raise your hand and I call on you, then you obviously you unmute. But who would like to speak first? Anybody? Tanya.
Well, since I'm the first, so I can follow what you just said. And it was a fascinating book to me. I learned a lot about the two Koreas, the South and North. Mm-hmm. And mostly I learned from the four people that she interviewed. And each one had a different story. And it was fascinating to hear their stories, what they went through, the hunger. And it was just unbelievable how Kim Jong did that to them. And then how they found out the life, the opposite side in South Korea. And it was so interesting to see the difference between the two Koreas. Yeah. And I thought the book was really very well written. And I loved the way she interviewed the people.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tanya. Thank you. Okay, Mitch.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You know, I went to Burma, Myanmar, a few years ago, and I thought that country was closed and autocratic and so on. But after reading this book, it's a paradise compared to Korea, North Korea. And I enjoy reading it. It's well written. What people have to do to stay alive, eating grass and doing what they did. And it was a hard read in that it reminds me any autocratic leader, that's what they do. They cut off the press. They have spy networks, and it reminds me of what we're heading towards in this country.
Exactly. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mitch. And thank you for joining us. Anybody else like to speak? Abby.
So I really enjoyed the book. I thought it was really fascinating as well, the how she juxtaposed the different lives, not just focusing on one person, but focusing on different people and the different ways that they were surviving. I thought that was interesting. I think the one thing that stuck out to me the most was how they revered their leaders, even when they were starving and not getting access to medical care and whatever. It was still like, make sure your pictures are dusted and,
Exactly.
you know, your guide has drying, and, you know, you wonder how do these things happen? Like, it's so amazing. It's just like with World War II and the Nazis. Like, how do, you know, it always just fascinates me. And I don't love Trump, so I'm sorry if people out there do, but it's fascinating to me when you see certain qualities of people, how other people still follow along and they just still go with it. And mentally, it's like, if you're told not to question, you don't question it. It's mind blowing. It's mind numbing. I enjoyed the book all the way until she kind of got to more to the present, because I don't think she had as much information about the present. And I felt it kind of fell off for me. Like, I was very engaged with all the people, but once we kind of got more to the present, like, you know, she made a big deal about how there was no electricity. And then at the end of the book, I guess there were like amusement parks and stuff, but I didn't know if there was still electricity or not. I don't know if I was getting bored in my reading at the end and not paying as much attention, or if I felt like she kind of maybe should have cut it off earlier. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was kind of my assessment, but I absolutely love the book. I really appreciate that you had us read that, and it was very eye-opening, and I really didn't know anything. So that was really very nice. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your feedback so much. Yeah, I really obsessed over which book on Korea to do, because there's a bunch of them that have been very well received. But this one really stood out. I was also, like you and like many of us, struck by the whole psychological meaning of all this, how people who are absolutely starving to death and walking over corpses in the street of other starving people who haven't made it, and still bow to their leader and revere their leader and so forth. It's amazing. That was totally what just, blew me away. I couldn't
totally
get over it.
That's, as you're reading, you're just thinking like, how does this happen to people? You know, how does this, like, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
And it's a good, it's probably a good parallel to yours of Nazi Germany. I think, in Nazi Germany, of course, people were also, before Hitler took over, they were looking for a savior because they were all in such bad shape after the war. And likewise in Korea, after 1945, after the war, the Japanese had really, apparently, I didn't even know this, had decimated the country. And the people were just groping for someone to lead them out of this desperation.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, it was a tyrant and
Mhm.
a family of tyrants who have
Mhm.
just taken over and feel that it is a God-given right, sort of a monarchy there.
Mhm.
It's terrible. And then to put all of their reserves into the military in the 90s. They had the fourth largest military in the world. And by doing so, obviously there was no money for anything else. So
Right.
no electricity, no food, no nothing. The military, that was the only thing on the budget.
Mhm.
So it's very, very sad. Who else would like to speak? Eve.
When I got the book and I started to look at it, initially I was really turned off because of, what's going on in this country. And I didn't want to draw those parallels to what's in North Korea, because what's going on in North Korea is so much worse
Yeah.
than anything that we could even imagine. So I tried to read it not from that view of this is where we're heading if we don't,
Sure.
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 But I found that it sort of lost it for me, because I almost felt like this is old history. I mean, this book was written 11 years ago or 12 years ago, and you wonder, is this how much worse it is now with the son, and how the family has been allowed to just continue ruling the country. I don't know. I just found it disturbing in that regard. And then when you hear about our government or other governments are, so concerned about the nuclear capabilities, and, the people there are just starving to death. Why aren't we hearing that kind of uproar than just, oh, they're just a threat to the world's, nuclear capabilities? I kind of lost that in reading this book. So I was, had seen that picture many years ago of, North Korea completely dark and the rest of the world having electricity. And it's just so amazing to me that even after things like that are published, or that it's allowed to continue. But I guess that if the people don't know any better, maybe, if they've been so sheltered and isolated, then maybe that's why it's allowed to perpetuate.
Yeah, well, I think there's, a lot of fear that if you go in, and I mean, the humanitarian aid has gotten in. I mean, things are a bit better than they were in the 90s, from what we hear. Human rights groups have gotten in, but there's so much we don't know. We don't know anything about the health of the leader. And there's so much fear because, he threatens that if we do anything, he's going to explode the whole world, with his nuclear capabilities. And it's very frightening to think of the power that he has in his hand. So it's a terrible situation. And of course, our leader hasn't made it any better. So it's very hard. Thank you, Eve. Thank you. Anne.
Well, I enjoyed the book very much. But, even if the humanitarian aid is in, most of the food is going to the military, not to the people. And I Googled her and watched 2 lectures that she's given, which were very interesting. And she had some slides. And one of them was all the little kids, all dressed up in their uniform, smiling from ear to ear, singing Nothing to Envy. So they, the only thing they show us is stuff that's not really true.
Yeah, right.
With the kids.
Right.
And but humanitarian, I mean, imagine not having rice in a place like Korea.
Right.
I mean, it's just incredible. But, and they don't have, how much do they have for export and import? Very little.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons they don't have food, I think, or they don't have, and they're shutting down on some of one of the lectures that I watched, they shut down the markets. At one point, China was importing cosmetics and candy and that kind of stuff. And now he shut down, the grandson shut down some of those markets.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, the people, the defectors who she obviously interviewed, you know, they decided that they needed to take a chance and chance with their lives and escape, as many people have done. But I mean, just thinking about that, it's huge because you know that you could get caught and either be executed or go to the gulag for the rest of your life. So it's a huge risk. But they were so desperate. And thank goodness that some people have gotten out to tell their stories. Otherwise, we would know very little, even less than we know now, which is very, very little. So, yeah, it's a terrible situation. I was personally not aware of a lot of this. I knew it was bad, but she really opened my eyes to the situation. Anybody else like to speak?
Well, I thought one reason why there's not a flood of people leaving is that they know that their families that left behind would be
Yeah.
feeling the,
Oh, right,
you know,
right.
the terrible consequences. So like all dictators, he uses fear, he uses spies, and the trickle that come down to South Korea, I think would be a flood if they didn't have to worry about the people they left behind.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think you're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right. So I noted a few things questions that we could talk about. So she talks a bit towards the end about how the defectors manage their life once they defect, the practical part of their life, the psychological part of their life. How do they confront all that in their new lives? I mean, it's difficult. It's certainly difficult, and I can't even imagine. But the one, it was interesting. It depends, I guess, on your personality and type of outgoing person. If you are an outgoing person, the woman, I can't remember her name, who, you know, she.
Would
Oh.
it be okay? Okay? Is that the one you're
Mrs.
thinking about?
I got
Okay?
it. I got it. Thank you.
I think Mrs. Song.
Okay,
Mrs.
I'm
Song.
sorry. I'm
Is
sorry,
that the one?
Jennifer and Tom. Tom is here somewhere.
Jennifer, you should be in now.
I'm in. Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
Yes, bye.
Hi, Jennifer. Sorry about that. We started and then I didn't check the waiting room again. 'Cause
Okay.
I didn't know you were coming. And then
Sorry.
Tom, is Tom here? Let's see.
No.
Yeah,
His body is not.
his body's not, but he says he's here, so I'm gonna leave that. Okay. So Jennifer, we're just talking, you know, we've gone around the room and everybody talks a little bit about their reactions to the book. Would you like to speak about the book? Would you like a turn?
I just like to listen to people for a while. Thanks.
Okay, no problem.
Sorry.
No problem.
Sorry about the confusion.
Oh, no, don't be sorry. I should have checked the waiting room. Sorry.
All right. No.
So,
Okay.
so I just threw out the question of what is it like after you defect? Let's say you defect to South Korea. What is it like psychologically, physically, and so forth? Hi, Tom. For these people to, you know, they have never seen a civilization like this. They're used to their closed civilization. And there was one woman in the book, one defector, I can't remember her name, who once she defected, you know, she cut her hair, she got makeup, she bought clothes, and she was, you know, very excited to live this new life. But I think there was still a lot of discomfort for her. Someone who didn't even have a grain of rice to eat in North Korea. I mean, it's unimaginable the change once they, you know, get out, once they escape. So pretty intriguing. And then the other question I had was whose story, which of the defectors' story did you feel most kind of tied into, most compelling, or most horrific or disturbing, or one you kind of aligned with and felt more compassion for? Was there any of the defectors that you felt, Anne? Hi, Anne.
I like the couple, the young,
The couple, yeah.
yeah, their story. The fact that they each felt the same way but didn't dare tell one another,
Bonnie?
it was kind of sad.
Oh,
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I agree. That was kind of like a little bit of a fictional part of the book, like you followed like a, you know, a story about a
Yeah.
romance. Thank you. Tanya.
It
Oh.
ended well.
It ended well.
Yeah. I was taken by Dr. Kim. Dr. Kim,
Okay.
he was very interesting. What he was expecting to meet her again and all that, and when he comes, he gets disappointed. You know, she remarries, and that was quite a love story between him and whatever. I think it was Min Ren, or whatever.
Yeah.
So that character impressed me a lot.
The doctor. Okay. Good.
The doctor.
Good. Anybody else? Okay. Yeah, so we've talked about, I was gonna, you know, ask you your experience getting through the book. I mean, obviously it was difficult. It made me very angry. It made me outraged. But it made me, on the one hand, certainly relate to what things are happening here, though it's nowhere near anything like that, but it's scary. But on the other hand, to be grateful, you know, because of geography, that I'm not there and I'm here. And these people are born there and live their whole life there, and most of them don't defect, and live this life of deprivation, and it's pretty unthinkable. So there's quite a lot of other books written. There's a couple of memoirs as well about defectors who have gotten out, if you're interested. And Hillary, are you raising your hand or? No, oh, okay. So unless anybody has anything else to say, I'd like to move on and tell you about next month. So we're going to continue the Zoom meetings because at this point, as I said before, Jennifer, you weren't here, and Tom, right now we don't have a plan to open for meetings. We are open. You can come in and browse books and check out books, but we have no meetings here and no classes here. Everything is via Zoom. And if you are interested in Zoom classes for technology, we do offer those now. You can check our website and sign up for those. They're all free. Well, 99% of them are free. I think there may be a few that are not. But next month, we will read The Bookish Life of Nina Hill. I felt that after this book, we really needed a light fun, kind of a quirky character who works in a bookstore. And I think you guys will love it. So where I used to get the books for you and you would come upstairs and pick them up, I'm not doing that because that way you don't have to come upstairs if you don't want to. So if you request the book, a copy of the book, it's just like all your other requests. You'll get an email when it comes in and you go to the holds room downstairs, the auditorium, and you pick it up there. If anybody would like me to request the book for you, I'm more than happy to do that for you. So I can easily do it. But Hillary, you have to unmute, Hillary.
Okay, so my question is, if we go into the Wellesley Library and take a book out, does it have to be returned there or can be returned to any other library like they've done?
Any library.
Any library.
Any library, yeah. And the other thing is everything is due, right now, everything is due October 31st. So don't worry about anything that has a due date before October 31st, and that may be extended. And right now, no fines at all.
Well, Needham's not having fines either.
No fines. No.
Thank you.
So it's pretty open. We're trying to be very welcoming, and we have all our protective equipment. We have the shields and masks and gloves, and we actually close the library every day from 2 to 3, and we clean the whole building from 2 to 3, and then we reopen at 3 o'clock.
Wow.
So it's a big job, but we're trying to do it right. And as I said, a lot of libraries are not yet open, so I'm happy that people have been so appreciative that they can come here and get their materials. And you can call for reference, so you can do all that. Good. So
Can you the name of the book?
the name of the book for next
Yes.
month?
Yes.
Yeah, it's called The Bookish Life of Nina Hill. And the author is Abby Waxman, Waxman.
Would like you to put one on hold for me, please.
Anne?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be glad to do that. Anybody else want me to put one on hold for them? Everybody else do it themselves. Okay. Okay, perfect. I think you'll
I
enjoy
did
it.
wonder,
Yeah, go ahead.
I did wonder, was there any discussion about autocracy as part of the discussion of the book? Because I know there's been a lot of discussion of authoritarian governments and autocracy in a lot of the thought magazines and press, you know, given what's going on around the globe now. So I wondered if there was any discussion of that in relation to ordinary life in North Korea.
Yeah.
At the time this book, also at the time this book was written, which was what, about 20 or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then what's going on now there, because they are talking about another famine, although nobody knows for sure.
Nobody knows
So,
for sure. It's so sad.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, it's we didn't talk so much about the Kim family, which is the, you know, it's like I just said, it's like a monarchy and they control everything. But autocratic, we didn't talk about that term. Did you want to talk about it?
Oh, well, in terms of people defecting or not defecting, or why people did what they did, I thought that the author did do a good job of talking about how people are, you're just so beaten down and wrapped up in the propaganda that it's very difficult to move outside that realm. And then, how that happens in a society. I thought that part of it was in terms of trying to get through the book, that was one of the most difficult things for me, with her descriptions, as well, of course, as the suffering
Yeah.
that so many people experienced. And I probably will never forget of the two daughters or two sisters that were left behind,
Oh,
and those kinds of things. So
right.
I just wondered. Okay.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
it's so tragic. I mean, all the stories are tragic. I I hope things someday will change there. I mean, who knows? We don't know if the leader is even alive, do we? We know that he may be very sick, but what does it matter? Because he's got a sister and he's got other relatives who are going to take over the same platform after him, right? I mean, they're all in the same frame of mind. It's just incredible. It's incredible.
Well, I think it was interesting that some of the people had connections, one to Japan and one to China. And the
Yeah,
other one to the other family to South Korea, because when the war ended, the father was in a camp in North Korea and had to stay there.
yes.
So I think they had a little easier time getting out than, and they had maybe a little more knowledge of how bad it was,
Yes,
because there was money being sent to Japan to one of the families.
yes. Well, that was
And,
the young boy. Yeah, his family.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But then again, the father who was from the South,
Yeah.
they couldn't talk about it, even that he was from the South. They would have been,
Right.
it was held against them. It was incredible.
The caste society
think, too,
too.
the sisters did get out afterward.
I'm sorry?
Mrs. Song
Yeah,
and Oak Tea got out together, and then a couple of the sisters got out later on.
they did. Right. They did. They went south. Yeah. Or they eventually got to South Korea. Yeah.
It's a long way.
It's a long way. I'm sure.
800 miles.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm
Of
sure.
course, America, 800 miles is nothing, but over there it was.
Oh, over there. It's huge. It's huge, I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and they know how to swim, crossing the river.
Right, because none of them know really. And
Mexicans coming up who drown in the Rio Grande.
perfect,
Not just
perfect analogy. Yeah, exactly, exactly. So there are definitely parallels. We pray that we never get to that, but we've got some unfortunate parallels here in America. So, well, good. Well, I'm so glad that you all could make it. Anybody else want to say anything? Oh, Mitch. You have to unmute, Mitch. Mitch, you have to unmute. Can't hear you.
I'm getting help.
Yeah, now you're okay.
Could you give me the name of the next book, please?
Okay, it's called The Bookish Life of Nina Hill by Abby Waxman, Waxman.
Thank you.
Okay, and do you need help requesting that, Mitch, or do you know how to do that?
Yeah, I would like to, I'm new to the area. If I just making a plea, if anyone wants to have a cup of coffee, and I'm trying to reach out, and I don't know too many people in the area. So I would appreciate if you want to have a cup of coffee or meat or with mask and social distancing. Please let me know.
Very nice. That's very nice. Well, if you come to the library, do you come to the library, Mitch?
Yes. Yes.
You do? Okay, good. So we have quite a lot of things going on. Obviously now, unfortunately, so much of it is on Zoom, but we do have ways for you to get involved. Certainly we have the Friends of the Library, and they're always looking for help, people to volunteer, and you can meet people that way. There's, what that was. And so there's also the Senior Center, which is right next door to us, which would be a great resource for you for meeting people. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a brand new building, and it's basically right down the street from us.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Do you live in Wellesley or Needham?
I'm in Needham.
In Needham, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, I think it's fine. I don't know. I assume you can go to the Senior Center if you're in Needham, but you'd have to check that out.
There's a very good center in Needham,
Oh,
senior center.
Oh, okay.
It's right behind the railroad station in Needham Heights.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Needham Heights?
Needham Heights. Yeah,
Needham
I'm sure your son can tell you where that is.
Behind the railroad station?
Yep, that's what
Yes.
Ann said.
And
Good. All right. Would anybody else like to say anything?
Excuse me.
Well, you can mute. Mitch, you can mute yourself. I'll put you. Mute. Okay. So great to see everybody, and I hope you all stay well. Jennifer, I apologize that I didn't see you in the waiting room. Tom, I hope you enjoyed your breakfast. You'll have to tell us what you're
we
having.
very much
And I hope
Very-
Sorry, a very unusually busy day.
Okay. So next month we're going to meet on the regular day. We didn't meet last week because it was holiday, but for October we're going to meet on our regular day, which is the third Friday of the month. I will send out a Zoom invitation a few days before the meeting, and I think it'll be a great discussion, an uplifting discussion, and a fun discussion. The book, if you all were with me for the Fickrey book, AJ Fickrey book, which was a great, yeah, oh, there you go. Mitch has it. That's the book. It's kind of like the Fickrey book, also in a book, takes place, character works in a bookstore. So it should be fun. All right. Well, I hope everybody has a good day and happy holidays, and everybody stay healthy.
You too.
Thank you. You
Yeah.
too. You
Thank
too.
you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.